Hey there, everyone. Welcome. We are coming to you live from Convene Times Square and the NEDAS 2018 Summit. I'm so glad to have all of you with us. My name is Steve Multer, and I am hanging out right now with Mr. Scott Gregory, Director of Marketing with SOLiD. How are you, my friend?
Steve, it's always a pleasure.
We don't get to hang out together anywhere near enough.
Not much.
I'm very lucky to have a long personal history with Scott and with SOLiD. SOLiD is the company that is keeping you connected and keeping you safe. So SOLiD has been really instrumental in defining and creating what we call today the Middleprise market. Scott's been a big part of that, addressing concerns that building owners, venue owners are experiencing as they try to reach out at the edge and deliver really solid, reliable communications infrastructure to their tenants. So, Scott, let's kind of start at the beginning of this. What is new within the Middleprise? What's been really newsworthy, really noteworthy of late, especially for you and for SOLiD?
Right. Well, for 2 years we've been talking Middleprise.
Yeah.
And to say it's an emerging market is probably an understatement. It's big.
It's big.
And it's hairy and it's a little scary.
And it's valuable.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people. The Middleprise is on a lot of people's bucket list. But over the years, and even recently over this summer season, there's been a couple things that have bubbled up, I think. And the idea of putting a DAS in a Middleprise Class A office space, maybe like right here in Manhattan, is not as easy as it sounds. And that's what everybody's learned. Aside from the signal source issues that we have and the need for carriers to evolve and move a little around the signal source requirements and getting that signal into a building, we've identified that there's some serious shortcomings with what we consider traditional DAS when you want to get that DAS in the building, that distributed antenna system inside the building. SOLiD's looking at it. We basically deconstructed our whole thinking around what does it take to put a DAS in a building and said, where can you save? Where can we make it easier for that building owner? Where can we make it easier for the IT professional? Where can we make it easier for even the tech, the VAR, the integrator, the installer, the 3PO that's going to have resources to get in and do that job? And we said, you know what? There's two battles to fight. We're going to start fighting one of these other battles, and that's that installation effort on that side.
How do you do this in terms of the communication? You're trying to get people with different areas of expertise, different personal interests within their organizations to cooperate for the betterment of a huge section of the market.
So what I really think is happening, that shakes out on its own. That will happen. What you have to do, though, is bring them the thing that makes it work.
Sure.
So we're looking at a couple things that make that installation and that deployment effort easier. And easier means probably faster, and faster means cheaper.
Right.
So that's the direction. Part of the software enabled aspect of installing a DAS is huge. Providing tools to do signal decoding, spectrum analyzing, just the commissioning and configuration of the network. If you could do that with simple drag and drop GUI interfaces and even do it remotely, so you're not having to have really smart people doing that in a building and moving to the next building, nothing. So there's some futuristic look down the road of saying, I got to scale to be able to do this, because again, that Middleprise market is huge.
Absolutely.
Scale it, but to do that, you need some really cool software tools, and it's one of the things that we've recognized at SOLiD and moving out here later this year with some news that's going to highlight what we're doing as far as making it easier for people to install a DAS in a Middleprise facility.
That's very cool, especially again when you look at a metro area the size of New York. You actually accidentally guided me directly to where I wanted to go with you next, which is, this is such a dynamic industry. We are always in a state of flux. How do we keep a company like SOLiD flexible and adaptable enough to be able to react to demand and to growth in the marketplace and be able to serve the market appropriately?
Well, that's interesting, because the DAS industry has a history of not being very flexible. In fact, we usually come out with new solutions. Yeah, blinders, we do it this way, it works, it works, and it works well.
No change.
Right, no change. Well, this market's going to require that.
Yeah.
So I think there is some dynamic natures, maybe twofold here. Number one, there's a dynamic requirement to be able to ensure that what you put in today works tomorrow. And if there's already something installed, and there's an industry that's comfortable with that blindered view of DAS, that you pull that through. There's some forward and backward compatibility issues that we're going to be looking at that become really prevalent and really a strong requirement in the Middleprise. It even raises its head even stronger when you think about the commercial real estate industry and how dynamic it is. They say they think with blinders today. They're concerned about what's going on today in that industry, in the commercial real estate industry. You take into consideration you have leases that turn every 3 years, 7 years, 10 years. Every time that changes and a building's configuration changes, you actually have to go back and look at the DAS and reconfigure that DAS. So it makes sense that hopefully something you installed 3 years ago you can still use 3 years later, and you got to be able to do that reconfiguration of the DAS requirements so that it's not dispatching people to unplug and plug in and test, that you can do that remotely. So kind of that dynamic nature plays into that Middleprise requirement to be easier, faster, cheaper to deploy, configure, maintain, monitor, all of those things. And to some point, recognize that there's going to be new players. The dynamic nature of the DAS industry is changing. There's going to be some new players. There's going to be new VARs, new installers that are going to step up to the plate to make this happen in this market. And I think there's also a really strong possibility that the building owners themselves are going to look for their experts, their resources to actually try to handle that. So making it easy to understand, that complicated RF stuff, making that easy to understand on a simple, an iPad, and making those changes and reconfiguring stuff is going to be huge moving forward.
And scalability becomes such an important part of that as well, scaling up or down based on demand. I want to go to something that you just mentioned a moment ago, which is almost like the sharing of power. You talked about the building owners, bringing them on board in this process so they take more of an ownership aspect of what's taking place. What does that look like in SOLiD's eyes?
Immediately, it's the ability to afford and buy a DAS and put it in their building. One of the things that is front of mind now at SOLiD is the concept that there is property tech. There's a whole world out there that if you've been in the DAS industry and playing in the DAS industry, that property tech raised its head, and all of a sudden you have things like, we talk about it every day, smart buildings. Yep. We talk about IoT. We talk about all kinds of things that happen in technology that are going into buildings, and quite frankly, DAS can't afford to be just a standalone component with that. So empowering that building owner, that property owner, that IT group that owns a building for a company, empowering them to recognize that we understand you have other technologies going on. Here's another one that you can, I'll say plug in. We can plug it into their building and it works with their infrastructure. It's easy enough that they can operate. They know what to do with it, they can own it. The vision here is that you empower those property owners and those enterprise IT guys to own these assets, so that they in turn can use them they want to use them. They can actually get the ROI they need to out of them. So if there's a DAS network there to deal with public safety and potentially and cellular communications, it's a radio network. Let's offload other stuff so that they can utilize that network to do the property tech programs that they have, which is much bigger scope than the DAS aspect of it.
And something we wouldn't have even thought of, even 5 years ago, it wouldn't have been a part of the conversation, that really this idea of building tech, it is a separate sector on its own and needs to be dealt with as a separate sector, right?
Absolutely, but DAS and in-building wireless communications is absolutely a part of it, and there's not a property owner I've talked to that doesn't raise an eyebrow and go, I need to know more about that. But the concept of installing it as a standalone solution, as we would in a big stadium or a convention center, something like that, is not as it's almost as if you're speaking a different language to them. They need to be able to roll it into that building that is their asset and all the other technology they have going in that building.
It's a very exciting thing, and that's why SOLiD is there to speak that language to them and explain it in a way that makes it accessible and make sure that people can understand what it's all about.
Absolutely, it's part of SOLiD's DNA to be an educator, take that message and inform people. Educated customers are better customers as far as we're concerned.
Amen. Isn't that the truth?
Yep.
My friend, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise.
Congratulations on everything happening at SOLiD. We look forward to seeing what's happening, and here in New York City as well with some new rollouts.
Absolutely.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Thanks.